Good morning and welcome to the January 21st meeting of the Facilities Committee. I call the meeting to order. All the members are present. I need a motion to approve the open session minute agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Next item for action is approval of the meeting minutes from the December 17th meeting.
Motion to approve the meeting minutes from December 17th.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, next, Mr. Burnett, warehouse lease.
The warehouse lease is going to be ending September 1st of 2021. The landlord has informed us that the lease will be increasing to $8,600 per month. And that they initially offered 2 years. That would be to September 2023. Actually, earlier this week, we did get word from them that as a further enticement, they are offering an additional year. That would be 3 years if we're interested. I know we have some discussions about possible warehouse and facilities building that we may want to discuss, but in the meantime, we are recommending that we pursue the.
Does the rate change if we go 3 years instead of 2 years?
No.
Same rate, okay.
Yes.
And why are we dealing with it now? Is there like a 6-month provision that we have to renew?
They actually had provided this well in advance. And so, and it was actually several months ago. So we are bringing it to you. It is something that as we go into our budgets, it's good to know that this is going to be increasing so that we can accommodate that.
Okay. So, I mean, regardless about what we would do, we would definitely need 2 years if we were to do anything else.
That's right.
Okay. So the question is whether do we want 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, 2 years is minimum. It would take a year of design, a year of construction. And so we were good with the 2 years. The third year is the benefit to that is we would know what that price would be, that they'd hold that price.
Okay. I mean, I have no idea what we're going to do about if we're going to do anything about Venus Street or building a warehouse or what, but that would go on a bond that won't happen until 2022. So I don't think that 2 years is going to be something built by then. Would you agree?
What I thought we would try to pursue would be to have the third year, but also have a get out clause on that.
Okay. But your recommendation is only for 2 years.
Yeah, like I said, this came from the developer this week, so this had already been posted.
Okay.
I make a motion that we recommend to the full board to renew this warehouse lease for 2 years, and I do want to go with the additional year for the third year.
So you think we should go through 2024
with a get out clause?
Okay.
I'll second that.
So it's 3 years with a get out clause. Okay. Do I have a second? Oh, you second. Sorry. All those in favor or
Aye.
any more discussion, I guess? No. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Next is Parkwood Middle School consultant contract.
Okay, and this item is going to be a little confusing, so please bear with me. What we are looking to have is a consultant contract that will include mechanical, lighting, and the pod conversion. We are asking, we do have a price from the consultant at $499,500. That's for a 14-month scope. And what we're going to be proposing is a 7-month scope, which would be at less than what I'm showing right here. So it would be $50,000 less than that. We have some things we still need to confirm. At 7 months, we still need to confirm whether we need to add mobile units to this particular project or not. And that's part of the investigation that we'll be going through. So what we want to look at is if you all would entertain approving this contract as a not to exceed amount as we continue to develop the project.
And this money is part of this year's CIP, correct?
So it's a combination. We have
Okay.
current money for the for the mechanical and for ceiling upgrades for the main building.
Right.
And what we would use that money to fund the consultant fee. We will be asking in the CIP, this upcoming CIP, for the lighting upgrade for the main building and for the money for the pods. So we've previously talked about doing 2 of the 3 pods. The third pod was never a consideration because it's part of the media center. Looking at the pricing and the concern is that doing 2 pods would consume a big share of the CIP that we normally get. So the concern was we didn't really want to do that. And so the proposal would be to just do one of the pods. That's actually not disappointed with that because there's some unknowns, with it. We'll do the 1 pod. We'll work through any of the issues and make sure that, in the end, everyone's good with the finished product before we do all the others.
Because this is significant more than what we thought it was going to cost us to redo these pods, correct?
It is. Yeah, so what we already have funding for is the mechanical at $2 million, the ceilings at $350,000, and that's being put into this project. What we expect that the total ask for the pods and the lighting is going to be in the neighborhood of $2.8 million.
Can any of the design work be used for Sun Valley or Piedmont Middle?
That's the expectation.
Okay.
And when I say that, let me clarify that. I mean, we still have to do a design for each of those projects, but we will have a great deal, number one, confidence going in, and 2, much of the work will already be done. But in every case, like a prototype, you always have to site adapt it.
So I know that we never put out what we thought our cost would be to do this pod these pod projects, but this number is a lot more than what I thought it was going to cost. So is there other things that we can do, or what's the reason that the disconnect in pricing or disconnect in what we thought maybe it was going to be, or maybe my thought process was off,
Sure.
But I'm trying to understand.
So certainly there has been the passage of time, and the past couple of years, the
Increase in
escalation has
escalation.
certainly been high. So number one, that's right off the bat. Number 2 is that really these would be complete renovations as far as casework and things like that inside the classroom. They are due. Those classrooms are 45 years old. I think, yes, about 45 years old.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's also due. Yeah.
Okay. I'm okay with moving forward, but I don't know. Does anyone else have any questions? Go ahead.
Had you looked at, I was just looking at if you just added brand new classrooms onto a school, what would the cost be instead of renovating?
So the footprint is certainly going to be the number one concern. Where would they go? And what would we do with all these pods space. So we haven't looked at new construction as in addition to what we have here. So the answer is no, we haven't looked at it. But I wouldn't really want to consider that just because so many other issues, with all three of these sites, as far as available land and how that flow, would work. And again, what would we do with these classrooms that we now have empty?
But you could still use the classrooms, the pods for other things, or breakout rooms or whatever, or smaller classrooms, or they can be maybe converted differently. But I agree with Mrs. May about, well, what's the cost of you're correct though, that we have to have land. And thinking about Parkwood Middle, I don't know where there's land other than the bus parking lot. I don't know there's a whole lot there. Sun Valley, I don't know either. So I guess it's just something we should keep in mind though. If it's less expensive for us to do something different, we shouldn't get pigeonholed into trying to figure a way with this.
Yeah, and I would say that the square foot cost that we're using is in the neighborhood of $145 a square foot.
Okay.
I think if we were looking at new construction, we would be looking at over $300 a square foot.
Okay. There's a lot of classrooms in the main part of the building, right?
There's 2.5 pods,
Okay.
really 2 3/4 pods, and they're 8, so
8 per one.
Yeah, almost
Okay.
24, so at least 22 classrooms.
Okay.
I was just looking at the other sheet we have for the construction funding plan. And so it had, for like Cuthbertson, which I know is a different design and it's easier to add on, but it was like 1.7 for 5 classroom expansion.
So yes, the Cuthbertson one is modeled after Porter Ridge Middle School. That actually kind of foresaw expansion in that direction at the original plan. We don't really have that opportunity at this prototype middle school at Piedmont, Sun Valley, and Parkwood. So that kind of goes to the flow that I was talking about. That would be much more challenging. So the Cuthbertson one is truly an addition right onto an extension of the corridor. I'm not envisioning that as a possibility with this prototype.
So what was your budget for the architecture contract?
Well, yeah, we didn't have that broken out. And when we originally talked, I think we had a project cost in the $1 to $1.5 million. And this is going to be, again, we've added other scope to it, but these pods are in the neighborhood of, like, to take one of the pods off, my initial estimate, which we do want to run by the
I
architect,
mean, we have to have a budget.
was $1 million. Yeah, so again, the budget that we have currently, $2 million for the mechanical work,
Mhm.
$350,000 for the ceiling replacement of the main building. So the additional,
But that was the main building, not the pods.
the pods are in the main building, but they're separate scope.
I
So
thought the pods were, you leave the main building and you go out the back doors and then you have the pods. I mean, I'm going off Piedmont, so
Okay. Yeah,
I know you
There's classrooms you get to going outside, but there's 4 classrooms that you get to inside. At least
okay,
at
not
some-
at Piedmont.
Okay.
At Piedmont, you walk in the main building.
Mhm.
You have the cafeteria on the left, offices on the right. You go down the hallway, you turn right, and there's a foyer, and you leave the building.
right. So
And
that's how
then you have all the pods.
Yeah, so those pods actually are connected to they are part of the original building. You
Okay,
can
so you're saying
access-
part of the original building, but when I think of the main building, I think of where the front offices are.
So
Okay.
back behind in Piedmont, you would think I'd remember this, but behind the media center, isn't there pod classrooms behind the
Yeah,
media center?
it's attached
And
to the
down
main-
those two hallways where the media center's in the middle? At Sun Valley, you go down either one of those two corridors that's the media center's in between, and then the pods
Our
are
media center, we have to go right, and I'm going
Yeah.
straight.
It's the same with Parkwood. They're all attached to the main building though, from the sides, and you have that courtyard in the middle. That's how they attach.
Right, so some of those classrooms that are in the pod are accessible from the corridor that's in the original building. And some of those classrooms in the same pod, you have to go outside to access.
Okay.
But it's all,
Like
as far as the
half of
building
them,
goes,
like
it's all
the
part of the
horseshoe.
original building.
Okay,
It's just
so
how
are you
access
saying
it.
that you're going to use the budget that we had set aside for mechanical and ceiling lighting, you're going to use that budget to do the pods?
So
He's
we're
gonna
gonna
use the
we're-
money to do just the architectural design.
So we're going to take from Peter to pay Paul to get to use architecture services.
So what we're trying to do is to combine different projects into one project. So we have different funding sources. So we have this current year's funding source, and we want to ask for future funding source this July 1 for the balance. So we have
The
$2 million.
July 1 budget that we don't have yet?
Correct. So that will be a request as part of the CIP, and that's for the pods.
I
And
thought we put design money into this year's CIP for design costs for the pods.
we did in
How
September.
much was that?
$170,000.
Okay,
That's what I was asking
But the
for. What
cost-
was the budget for the design fee?
So that wasn't the budget. That was the county, I think through their evaluations, I think had additional funding that came our way. That was in September, and it was $170,000. So we said, it's seed money, so let's earmark it for the pods because that's something we want to do as an upcoming project. So at Parkwood, we're going to be doing mechanical that's above ceiling in the original building. So the ceiling has to come out. And so at the same time, we're going to be replacing the ceiling grid and ceiling panels. Good timing. So we'll do both at the same time. Third is lighting that's going to be in this coming request. That since we're doing all that ceiling work, let's replace the lighting. It makes the most sense. And this lighting is surface mounted lighting. So it would be, hopefully we can get that to be recessed like this. We'll see if there's enough room above ceiling. Otherwise, we'll still be we want to replace the lighting with LED lighting. We'll get a payback on that. And that would be within 5 years, it'll be paid for just from the energy savings. So that's one of the requests is the lighting for the main building, the original building. And again, this is a CIP discussion, but we're trying to put it all in this one project with one consultant so that it's much more manageable, from the construction standpoint. And we won't be going back, to the school and disrupting the school each time. So we do have some funding already. We have $2,520,000 to do mechanical, ceilings, and then, this $170,000 was in that number.
so
So-
basically, we had $170,000 to do design for the pods, but that's not going to be enough because we added other scope to this project, including lighting and the ceilings and all that kind of stuff. But we're taking from something else so that we can do the design. But so our choices would be to take that money, and correct me if I'm wrong, take the money that we have and use it for the design fee design fee, right? Design and construction administrative services. Or we can wait until the next budget and put it in the CIP for that.
That's right.
Those are our two choices.
Yeah, you can
we-
wait.
Do we have any money allocated for the design of the mechanical?
It's just $2 million.
Just $2 million total. Okay.
Yeah, so everything,
So
that would include
includes the
everything.
design fee.
we'll go as far as we can go with the $2 million. And that, any design that would be needed would come out of the $2 million.
Can refresh my memory. Do we have any other ceiling work done at the other schools, Sun Valley or Piedmont yet? I know it was on the CIP.
It's been on the CIP.
But we haven't completed anything.
We haven't
right?
done
We
anything.
haven't,
Okay.
other than the kitchens
Yeah, the kitchen,
at
yeah.
each of those
Yeah.
schools.
We decided not to do the ceiling tiles because we were talking about doing the pods so that we would do it all at the same time. So it wasn't just the pods, it wasn't just the ceiling. We kind of combined them all together. But our choice is to, as I look at it, and anybody can correct me, is that we either use this out of funds that we have now, or we increase our amount that we need for design in the next CIP.
And our hope is that we can get design efforts underway.
Right,
Otherwise, we will completely lose the summer,
okay.
and it'll be the next summer.
While kids aren't in there, they can, okay. I understand what you're saying.
And this work
I
is going to take more than a summer,
Okay,
even
sorry.
if we were able to start in
Right,
June 1. And the $170,000 was not a request from us. It just came from the county. So there isn't any magic to the $170,000 other than it came from the county. And we said, well, let's put it towards this project.
does anyone have any more questions? If not, does somebody want to make a motion? The staff requests that the Facilities Committee recommend to the Board of Education to approve the fee proposal of $499,500.
And if you want to say not to exceed $499,500,
Not to exceed, okay, not to exceed,
we expect to get that lower.
okay.
And this is contingent on June 1st funding for this next
No,
year.
this is,
July 1.
July 1 funding for this next year with the lighting.
no, right now, we would be
Well,
using.
we have the money, but we're moving
We have
around, but we have to get more money to complete this.
If we don't, so we can use the money that we have in the CIP right now to fund the $499,500 that is set aside for Parkwood Middle School. Or we can wait and put it into the CIP for next year. But the problem with that is that we lose the summer when there's no kids in the school.
But we're still gonna need more money to complete it.
In order
regardless.
to do, so we have no money in the CIP right now
Yeah,
for the pod for the configuration of the pod. We just put in the $170,000.
Yeah.
And again, the county, when they told us what, I think that was a true up thing, right? And then we got an additional $170,000 and we
Yeah.
put it toward design. It wasn't a magic number. That's all the money there was. So we could go either way.
Okay.
I can't make
I
it.
guess my only concern is the mechanical, can it last that long? I mean,
Yeah, so, and for the most of this scope, it's going to be a lot of pipe replacement, pipe insulation work. We don't see the issue that we had at Parkwood High School. This is not the same deal.
So my concern is, okay, so what work do you think you could get done this summer?
We're hoping to be able to get mechanical work and ceiling, grid, and panel replacement and lighting. Really, what we're looking at is a duration of 7 months. What we will have to do is we'll need to work with the school to see, can we have the 7 months at continuous? Number one. Number two, is there anything we have to do to facilitate that? That school is under capacity, underutilized. We're hoping that maybe we can move students' classrooms out of one of these pods and not have to have the mobiles. But that's a dot we have to, an I we have to dot and a T we have to cross. So we don't have that yet. But that's where we are.
so the triangle shaped walls will come down before the ceiling grid and mechanical goes up.
That would be the hope, is to, for that pod, is to just completely remove the students from that environment, have the entire area for construction and gut it and come back with a new configuration, new ceilings, new mechanical, new casework, basically a completely renovated space.
Okay.
So tell me again, you said we had 2.8 million for lighting and pods. Is that what you were estimating for the next budget? Or
We
explain
expect,
the 2.8 million?
yeah, we expect that that's going to be the request for the next CIP effort, and that would be the balance of this project, which specifically is going to be for pods and for lighting.
But you just said that we would get the mechanical, ceiling grids, and lighting done this summer, but lighting would be on your next budget. Lighting and pods would be on your next budget.
Going to try to do all the scope, starting, at the same point for all the scope of work. And hopefully that would be this summer. And whether that's a June 1, or whether that's having to wait for July 1, is something we can work out, I think, from the bid documents and from the contract of saying, as we need additional funds, it may be that for a contract, a construction bid purpose, that could be a bid alternate with a later start date, depending on when our funding comes. And when we get the funding, then we're able to approve the bid alternate and then work with that scope. So that's a confusing, response, but that's very possible.
Because we're not doing what we thought we were going to be doing. We've added to it. So basically, we've changed the scope of work since we set our budget. So
the pods of something that we've talked about for a couple of years, wanting to do it, and that's been kicked back, each CIP. And so we're trying to incorporate it into this year's CIP request and to actually be able to do the work. The mechanical has been there and it needs to be done. The ceiling, has been something that's been pushed back because we knew we wanted to do these pods.
I'm sorry. Okay. I'm not sure I understood you correctly. I know we've been talking about these pods for years, but it's not in this year's budget.
That's correct. It's not in this current budget.
But you're recommending that we do get started in this year's budget, but we didn't set aside design fees for this year's budget.
That's right.
So
And then
we're asking for something else from this year's budget to get started with something that now you want to do next year's budget.
trying to look at it as a project that has different funding sources that's coming together.
I understand all that.
Yeah. So, and it's 2 different years funding.
I guess my concern is I feel like we're trying to do something this year that we had planned to do next year. And it just seems like to me that we should have known or would have known that we would have needed design fees this year.
Yeah. Again, we're trying to just put the project all together so that it's
completely understand.
And last year, we couldn't do the pods in the CIP. And that was unfortunate, but I think everyone understood it got pushed back again. So what we have the ability to hold off on the mechanical and the ceiling until we do all that work at the same time. Now, if you don't want to put the projects together, they can, it won't be as efficient, and it will be more disruptive, and it will take longer, but they can be different projects.
I hear what you're saying, but I guess I wish we had heard this when we were setting the budget for this year, that it wouldn't be efficient.
Well,
I think that every year we pull stuff, the Parkwood, Piedmont, Sun Valley stuff off of the CIP because we never get enough money from the county to do what we need to do. That $170,000 popped up, and we thought, okay, well, at least we can get some design fees or some design stuff start to happen. And I think it's just more than we thought it was going to be.
I mean, that's like $330,000 addition over or that we weren't prepared for.
again, there wasn't any magic with that $170,000.
I know there's no magic.
Right.
I mean, that was that was
Right.
unexpected money that we received from True Up. But it does not cover a 490, almost $500,000 of design fees. So
Right.
170 hardly puts a dent in $500,000.
And I understand everything you're saying, but the mechanical amount of money that we had in there, it's in the CIP, correct?
Mhm.
It has embedded in it design fees, right?
And the way that works is we will go to $2 million and try to take care of, as far as that needs to go, everything that, needs to happen.
But the
Priorities.
499 includes the mechanical design stuff, correct?
I didn't hear the number you said.
The 499 you're asking
Oh,
us.
it does, yes.
The design fee.
So then some of the $2 million goes to this design
That's
fee
right.
because, right, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so
And
some of it, but
ceilings.
not all of it.
Yeah, ceilings and in this case, adding the lighting and the pods.
No, the lighting in the pods was not included
Correct.
in the mechanical and ceiling. That's not correct.
Correct.
So the only thing that was included in the 2 million was mechanical and ceiling grids, the 2.35.
That's right.
The lighting in the pods was not included.
And that's
Correct.
this year's request coming up.
That we haven't discussed yet or been approved by the board.
That's right.
If this committee, because this would have to go before the cloud. Okay, any more questions?
What was the motion again?
Well, the motion is that the staff request that the facility committee recommend to the board approval of the fee proposal not to exceed $499,500.
I don't mean to sit in silence on this, but I guess for me, if I saw what the CIP was going to be for next year, the breakdown, then, because I'd like to see all this work get done at Parkwood, but do we think we'll get the money we need for next year?
It would have to be
Included in the CIP for next year.
Right, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
When do we get to see that?
So the CIP is going to be a discussion. What I'm going to be telling you is an introduction to it. And so that season actually starts, today.
Right. So we usually do 2-on-2s to go through
Right.
the CIP. Then the facilities committee would recommend it to the finance committee for inclusion in the budget, but that wouldn't get approved until like May. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so no motion?
I mean, for me, it makes total sense, but we just don't have that funding mechanism that guarantee yet to go forward. And if we
Well, I guess the
happen
funding
to lose the mechanical design fee, we're going to be cutting ourselves short potentially.
Okay.
But
So no motion. Okay. Long-range planning is the next item.
Okay, in addition to the information that was written down, which kind of described the meeting that we had this week, again, a request from Commissioner Helms about prioritizing the long-range plan projects that we have. Just a couple notes. In one box we want to kind of check, and that is, though it's maybe a foregone conclusion, the May 5th document that we had that had the plan, the bond plan from 2020 through 2026. What we want to do is to update that and to, with the passage of time. So if we're following bond years, we'd be moving those to 2022 through 2028. So did want to get confirmation that the committee's on board with that. And then if there's any changes to we did a swag with the priorities. So for discussion, if there's any items, if you all, want to visit those priorities.
Well, here's my thoughts. I was on the meeting the other day of the ad hoc committee and I heard Mr. Helms. We've already prioritized it by year. I'm not a big fan of prioritizing the projects within it because we believe that they're all necessary. And that's why we put them on the bond when we made the initial request and why it's still the same place. So, I mean, we can do that. And I see on the document that you tried to do that, but I just don't. So on one hand, we're prioritizing the things within each bond group. And then his next question was, is there any additional capital items that we'd like to add to it? And then 3 is enrollment and capacity, which is fine. But if we're going to make this document show all those things that Commissioner Helms asked for, we need to have footnotes to say, look, when we talk, and you guys talked about it at the ad hoc committee meeting the other day, is the reason that we're doing Forest Hills and East Union and East Elementary is because those buildings have issues. It has nothing to do with capacity, enrollment, or anything. So we can give the information, but we need footnotes saying that this has nothing to do with capacity. This has to do with an old building, East Union, needing that school needs something. We build a new high school on the same site as, next to the same site, and we can use the athletic fields, and East Union can then move into a moderately revised building. So I just want all that to be in here too. If we have to prioritize, we can do that. But I just think that we need to make sure that everything is in the document to make sure that they understand what we're dealing with, because it's not like East Union or Forest Hills have overcrowding issues. That's not the issue, is why it's on a bond. And I know in the past, that's what the bonds were about, but that's not what this is about.
I agree completely. When we were in the ad hoc committee meeting this week, it was very clear to me that there was one set of rules for Union County Public Schools and another set of rules for the community college. And what was asked of us was not asked of anyone else. But here's what I would, recommend. I mean, we've prioritized and ranked this for 2 years. This is not a new document that the county has not had access to or a copy of for 2 years, if not longer. I appreciate the fact that you went through and ranked these, but it still doesn't show what Commissioner Helms asked for. So I thought we were going to add a column, and maybe Mrs. Hinetail doesn't agree with this, but just simply add maybe 3 more columns. To her comment, I think it should be year built, original year built, because when you see 1928 or 1940, hopefully you would understand that that is an aging facility that we inherited in the merger. And I think that would make a huge impression. What year was that facility built? And then for schools like Cuthbertson, I think it is going to be important to show, what is the capacity at that school and what is our current enrollment. And we'll be able to justify why it needs the same bond that we did in 2016 for Porter Ridge Middle School. So that the thing that, if we were to accommodate that request, in my mind, it would have to be take this document and add 3 simple columns.
Ms. Mayor, what is typically happened in these ad hoc committee meetings? So after we have the meeting, Ed will send out a request for information, to us, and he does a good job with that of asking us to follow up on specific items. And I don't have that yet, although we all know what was discussed. I'm certain I'll be getting something for him for the information that was requested. In terms of the ages of the schools, each school, both in the document that we originally did and in the reformatted one, contains information about construction at each school site. So, for example, at Forest Hills, it's
They're not reading
They're
it,
not reading it.
Mark.
right.
So
So-
that's why I'm asking if you add 3 simple columns to this document, because they didn't read it.
So, and I understand what you're saying about Cuthbertson needing the capacity and stuff. I'm good with putting all that or not giving it for the others, but then footnoting why we're not giving it, because this has nothing to do with capacity and enrollment. But we can give them the information as long as we're footnoting, saying the reason. I just think it's hard to get everything in on a document, but maybe we need to take this and split it up into the years and then put more information on each tranche of what we're asking for. Because I know that we've included all of this, we've said it all, but I think it needs to be on one page so that they can see it. And I'm good
Exactly, because I love your presentation. It is extremely helpful for someone that cares about Union County Public Schools to know the history of these schools. This is a great presentation, and we take the time to read it.
So-
But and I guess, I just keep going back. I know that we have maintained these facilities since 1928 or when we inherited it in 1993. I know that we've done all these other capital improvements. But if we're trying to impress upon the county that we have aging facilities and they're trying to decide, do we give the money to the community college or Union County Public Schools? I beg them to show me one of their facilities that was built in 1928 or 1940. So that's why I think that column is very important to justify that we have aging facilities and like East Elementary, facilities sometimes have to be replaced.
So if we could, let us
But
get the information from Ed and
Great.
reformat it and let you all see it.
But I have
And-
one more question.
okay.
So what are we going to do about the prioritizing within each bond? That's what Dave and Mark tried to give us some suggestions. Is that something that we want to do within each tranche, or that was, I think, what the discussion was about? Anyone?
Honestly, if we don't prioritize it, they will.
I agree with that.
So I think if you do the draft and show us your priority and then we reconvene.
It's on here.
Yeah.
But we can have another facilities meeting
Yeah.
to talk about this once you get the stuff from
Yeah.
Mr. Gagnon.
That's what I think we should do
Okay.
is let you get the information, do the draft. But and again, I like the document that you sent us, but it's too much information. And if this is phase 1, then I really think you need to keep it simple, stupid.
We can do that.
So
We'll
maybe
work on
this is something we can talk in our 2-on-2s when we do the CIP and the bond and the look at, we do it from there. Okay.
I got a quick question too. We keep talking about aging infrastructure. I mean, all our buildings are an asset. So do we have any data regarding all our assets and the end of life cycle for all the assets? I mean, I know some of these are at the end of life cycle. It kind of gives a finite point, like when
I
it's
assume
useful.
on our financial books, we have that, but
I would-
depreciation.
We've got depreciation, but I mean, we also have asset management. There becomes a point of criticality
Right,
where it
no.
becomes cheaper to build a new building versus maintaining an existing building.
Right, correct. Okay.
So,
Yeah, it's, so, and you're specifically talking to like a FCI, that kind of facilities condition index. We don't have a survey of that. General rule of thumb is a school building, you should be looking to replace it after 50 years. And these schools that we're talking about are all over 50 years, 50 plus. The high schools are 60, and some of the other schools are
Benton
much
Heights
older than
is
that.
1924.
Right.
Yep.
going back to like Parkwood Middle, I mean, the pizza-shaped classrooms, that doesn't make sense and probably never really
Were
made
they
sense. but-
originally pizza shaped, or was that something that
No.
happened after
I have to think that
construction?
they were
They
They
original.
were
It
originally.
was original. It looks like they put in temporary walls.
Yeah,
No?
It looks
Yes.
like it was something that was added later.
Okay, so
That
we're
was the
going to
70s.
table this item as well, and we will talk about it, and then we'll call another facilities meeting after that. Is that good with everybody? Okay.
And I would almost recommend putting the schools in your prioritized order instead of
Yes, I
this
agree
way.
with that.
put them in your prioritized order.
Okay. So that was all the action items. The only action item that's going to the full board is the warehouse lease. Okay. Driver's ed vehicle purchase.
Yes, this is just information.
Because they have their own budget, we don't, does the board approve this? I assume yes.
So the board doesn't have to approve this. It's less than the threshold.
Oh, it is. Okay.
For the board. That's
Okay.
why it's just for informational
Okay.
purposes.
Does anyone have any question on the driver's ed vehicles? Okay. Next, the draft CIP initial presentation. The purpose of having this on the agenda is just to say what we've already talked about, is that we're going to schedule 2-on-2s to discuss next year's CIP and now the bond. So, okay. Next is the construction update.
Sure, and I'll start with Sun Valley High School. Yesterday was, cross our fingers, was a very important day as the concrete was poured at the stadium entrance in front of the ticket kiosk. The drains are in place. Yeah, they were pouring it when I was there, so I couldn't get on it. But that's a very important step in this entire project.
So, is it going to be ready to play? Yeah, you know it's coming. I mean, it's not new.
Right.
Is the stadium going to be ready for them to play on it? What next week is the first game?
Monday.
Monday.
I'm
Okay, thank you. Monday.
Yeah, I think there's a lacrosse game on Monday.
So, is it going to be ready?
Yeah, so the answer is that we expect the answer is yes. The contractor has called in an inspection of the concrete that he poured yesterday. That should happen today, and just got to make sure that it matches the slopes that it needs to be.
I feel
And
like a
that's the
broken
only
record.
thing that's
I really do.
outstanding.
I mean, we had graduations in that stadium in June, and here we are 2 business days before we are supposed to host a first game there, and we're not sure yet. This contractor and this stuff is just crazy. We've known about this problem there, and Branch has known about this problem there since, 3 months ago, 4 months ago? I don't even know. And this isn't fair, and it better look really nice. I drove over there on my own. The trees still haven't been planted, but yet they put all the other landscaping in. I mean, it's infuriating. What in the balls? What are we doing? What is Branch doing?
So this week I've been out to the site several times, and in particular the landscaping, they've had a hard time getting a response from their landscaper, and they've looked at sourcing some trees from somewhere else.
There's an excuse every time.
That was the
Every
answer we
time.
got.
There's an excuse.
This morning,
And what about the balls? Have the balls been moved? Or are they still sitting in the same place they've been sitting in for the last 3 months?
they are in the same location as of yesterday afternoon.
It's just not acceptable. It's just not.
I will tell you on a positive note this morning, they are calibrating the cameras at the stadium so that
so that we may or may not play?
Monday, they can live stream the event.
It's beyond disappointing now, and it's infuriating. I mean, they have had 7 months to get this done. That the concrete that they're replacing is partially Little's fault, yes, and Little screwed it up twice. I get that, but this shouldn't be happening. I mean, it just should not be happening. And I don't understand what they're doing. And I don't even know if they're there all the time anymore or what's going on. But to deliver a bunch of stuff to the school 3 months ago and it still sits there today is not okay. I don't even, what can be done? What is gonna, I don't even know what to do anymore. But it's,
Why has it been sitting there for 3 months and nothing's happened? I don't understand this at all. Why is it still sitting there?
So specific to the kiosk, the issue was that the water was sheet flow towards the kiosk buildings.
a design defect.
And it needs not to flow to the kiosk. At the kiosk themselves, it needs to flow away from the kiosk. So that they then needed to solve that problem. And that was the solution. Ultimate solution was to insert drain systems, there.
And that couldn't be done. Why? Because, I mean, we've talked about that. So why has that
Why
not
it
been
waited
done?
till the week before they're supposed to use the stadium? Great question.
Yeah. So the solution was something that was going back and forth with the engineers, trying to get the cost pricing from the contractor back and forth, trying to get the best solution, the most cost-effective solution. And that did consume a great deal of time. This is not something that is costing Union County Public Schools.
Which is why they're taking so long, because they don't like the price to fix their problem.
Bingo.
Yeah, I mean, bingo.
So
So they're disagreeing back and forth. Meanwhile, our students cannot participate or prepare for their first game.
Or even worry about the fact that they may not be able to play on it. Has the concrete been torn up all the way to the grass? So from the very front, past the kiosks, all the way back. All that was cracked and uneven and all
that
that.
has been repaired.
So the entire piece has been done. But they wait until,
Yeah, they did that repair previous to this concrete pour.
has it cracked yet?
I haven't been on it.
It's just beyond. I mean, it really is.
This,
Last meeting,
this
we
needs to be our number one priority, and we need to be on it
on it.
every day. And them not finding something that fits their budget is not our problem. They need to fix their mistake so that our school can operate and function like every other high school.
And when you ask them, where are these balls, concrete balls going? When are you going to move them? What's their answer? I know that Branch took their trailer away, right? Does that mean that there's nobody on the job
No,
anymore?
they have a setup inside the building. It's
awesome.
in the renovation area of C. And it's just like a.
So we're
little-
providing, so now
So what's their
we're
answer?
providing branch office space.
So what's the reason that they haven't moved them? Is there one? Is anybody pushing them to get it moved?
So they're waiting. They wanted to wait till they finish the concrete pour. That'll free them up to put them along the perimeter of the bus drive, which is right beside where the kiosks were. It's being able to move equipment around and things like that. And so that's going to happen there. There's some other work that's going to be done on the other side, but they're doing the balls at the same time, from what I
So
understand.
it's January, what's the date today? 21st. Where are we with B and C? Are they done? Are they open? Because that's when the last thing said it would be done.
Yeah, that, from what I wrote, it's February 1st.
Oh, another missed deadline. Okay, what about the auditorium? I mean, where are we with the interior of the school? I know that again, I'm taking my frustration out here, but I don't know what to do anymore. I just feel like they give deadlines and they never have met a single one of them. Not
disputing
one.
that.
Not one in, is it 3 years now? 2 years. 2 years since we started. February of 19, right? 18? 2 years. No, they haven't hit one thing. So where are we with the interior of Sun Valley?
What they are lacking in the what we call Area A is permanent handrails for the ramp, that they built, which is outside the old kitchen cafeteria. So they can put temporary handrails up, but they are waiting on the permanent handrails. They are waiting on, I think it was a carpet. They had some carpet. They didn't have all the carpet, so they were waiting on the rest of the carpet.
So that whole front, what used to be the front of the school, the whole corridor, all that was being done. Is any of it done yet?
If you're talking about Area B, that's all the classrooms between.
Where
The
the old
auditorium.
admin was, the
Right.
old
Yeah,
counseling?
so that's been occupied. And
That's
we've-
been occupied.
Yeah, we're in those spaces.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the other way?
So going from the old admin towards the
Old
1960
cafeteria,
Media
right.
Center.
Uh-huh. No,
that-
old cafeteria, the other way.
Oh,
Was there anything else? Just the old cafeteria was being renovated?
right. So,
Okay.
and so I want to clear, so from the old admin to the auditorium, the classroom spaces in there, we've been in there.
Right.
That's
Yes, I
been
know that.
occupied.
Right.
So the performing arts area, which is chorus and drama, which was old kitchen, old cafeteria, that's what I was talking about. That's really days away, and they're just waiting on those items that I mentioned.
Because this says the next major milestone, including turning over the former admin area corridor, but you said that opened.
So the admin corridor to the old media center, which is the 1960 media center, it looks like the church, and it's actually
Okay,
pictured.
yes, mhm.
Yeah, so it's what's pictured in here.
Yes.
So that corridor's not open yet, and that's.
So the
and we had-
classrooms that we built in the old admin area, are those occupied? Is that what you meant?
You're right. That whole area is waiting, and so it's not signed off yet.
Okay, and what about the new weight room?
Uh,
Dave, I can answer that one. I had a conversation with John yesterday. They've done a check of the moisture content of the slab, and they're waiting for the installer to verify that the content is within the range of the adhesive that he's using.
That's right. So that's flooring material. And so the concrete has to be particular moisture content before they can put that flooring down. It's been tested, and, like Mark had said.
The
if
weight
it's-
room's going to be done way more than anything else, even though they just started 4 months ago. Okay. I don't know what else to say. I don't. I would love to have a sit down with Branch. I really would. That would be,
They need to do the work and figure out their money later. They need to do the work and they need to just figure it out later. That is not our problem.
okay. Anything else on Sun Valley? Dave, do you have anything else on the
Uh,
construction?
No, I mean, other than land acquisition since the last time, we. for the
Anyone have any
public's-
questions?
I don't have any questions, other than just asking, is everything going smoothly at the Piedmont Stadium?
It is.
Okay, it looked like things were moving well reading your update.
Right, and they should be, and they should have started last night with the construction of the grandstand.
Okay,
So we'll say today, as long as rain doesn't
Okay.
knock them out. But that grandstand construction should start, we'll say this week.
So theirs is going to be ready for their first match as well?
So it wasn't ever intended to be
Intended,
ready.
okay.
So they will be using the home bleachers for both visitor and home. And yeah, that grandstand won't be ready.
Okay.
Okay.
Change order, does anyone have a question on that? No?
No.
Okay. Sir, anything on surplus inventory? Nope.
No.
And any building and zoning permits is just for information. Our next meeting is February 18th, unless we have one before then that we would call. The next is we need to go into closed session. I need a motion pursuant to NCGS 143-318, 10 and 11 to review minutes from prior closed sessions, and NCGS 143-318, 11A3 to consult with an attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged.
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.